Moving on to the Packers wide receivers. Yes, 2 of them meet our threshold. Romeo Doubs, 56% available. Check your league on that one. Dontavian Wicks, 73% available. Against Jacksonville, Jay, who, Jacksonville is a fantasy buffet for whoever is playing against them.
They are. Now, the Packers wide receiver Rubik's Cube is this weekly problem that needs to be solved. I think the best way to look at it is just who is out there and who is playing the most, because we can't predict who is going to get thrown the ball. We can make predictions off of just who is going to be out there for the most snaps. And last week, the guys who are playing the most are Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed.
Right.
Jaden Reed is clearly the number one guy that you want. But outside of that, like Dobbs, now Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks, they've both been dealing with injuries, so you don't know how much of that is management. But Romeo Doubs, who again, he just goes under the radar constantly. His target count was in the 90s last season. And again, I would say that he is probably the best bet to be the number 2 wide receiver on the team.
It's a great matchup with Jacksonville this week, right? Especially with the Jags allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. But yeah, Dobbs seems to get a lot of looks when they get in close as well. He's now had back-to-back games since he had to sit out a game because he was bitching about his role on the team. He's now had squeaky wheel gets the grease, though, right?
Maybe he was right.
Honestly, look, he's had back-to-back games with over 17 fantasy points now with Jordan Love since that week when he sat out and pouted. He's averaging almost 14 points per game in games with Jordan Love this season. I prefer Dobbs to Wicks, who in every game that Christian Watson has been healthy this year, Wicks has had a below 56% route participation. I love the player. I love the talent of Dontavian Wicks. It just feels like he can't get on the field in a full-time role. I know he had the big game. He actually leads the team in red zone and end zone targets, but that's the thing with Wicks because he's only playing about half the snaps, assuming all 4 guys are healthy. So that's what you're hoping for when you start Wicks, is that he's going to get into the end zone. Worth noting, however, the Jags have allowed 5 touchdowns to wide receivers in just their past 3 games. So he does have a pretty decent shot at getting into pay dirt on Sunday against Jacksonville.
Ravens wide receiver Rashod Bateman, who we discussed at large at the top of the show, he's 83% available against the Browns. And Matthew, as you know,
don't make me talk about Rashod Bateman.
As you know very well,
go ahead.
Targeted 4 times. Caught all 4 of them, 121 yards,
and
a touchdown. What a performance for Rashod Bateman.
Magnificent
Almost
performance
heroic.
from Rashod Bateman. Justice was very nearly served, and it would have been a dish very, very cold and delicious, but unfortunately Matthew won. But with Rashod Bateman, Connor, do you think that there is a chance? I think we think of Rashod Bateman, he's a very known commodity. He's been on the Ravens for 4 years. This is what he is. He caught a couple of deep balls last night, doesn't change anything. But he's still a first-round pick. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, and it seems like he's healthy. His PFF grading has always been atrocious. Now this year it's really good. Is there a chance that Rashod Bateman is an actual much better player this season?
And with PFF grading with wide receivers, and this matters, so it's fair, but they kill you for drops. They sink you for drops. And he's had some big drops in between injuries throughout the first couple years of his career. He feels boom or bust, and that's because he's getting targeted down the field. It's now 3 straight games with multiple deep targets. So during the bye weeks, and there's none this week, but there will be a lying ahead, if you have a desperation flex in a deep league like the League of Assholes, like Steven did last night, you could start Rashod Bateman and hope it's a boom because somebody has to catch the ball down the field, and nobody else in this offense does.
Very Gabe Davis-y from
Very
last year.
Gabe Davis. That's exactly what it feels like.
Although there's more of a floor here for he who will not be named. At least 11 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. What drives me crazy about Rashod Bateman, and it's just so much, but I have him in a dynasty league. Everyone out there that's in a dynasty league knows what I'm talking about here because Rashod Bateman, to your point, came into the NFL with a first-round degree pedigree, somebody that crushed Purdue, right? He was
Minnesota,
sorry, and it was
same conference.
Yeah, it is. I knew it was a Big
That's
Ten.
pretty good for you for college.
Very close.
Thank you. I was just saying.
Geographically, not that far apart.
Yeah, Minnesota. And they've. The helmets are sort of the same, kind of the gold, everything like that. Anyway, the fact of the matter is...
You lost it there. You let go of the thread.
You had us in the first half.
Yeah, right, what are you going to do? No, Minnesota has the M in the, right?
I'd drop it.
It's not gold. Purdue's gold.
Purdue is gold with a P, but
Minnesota
maroon?
Maroon and more of a mustardy.
I'm thinking about the mustardy, with the mustardy with the blue.
Yeah, mustard and gold. I'll pay it.
Thank you.
Colors.
I'm colorblind.
It's not the worst. It's not like you said it was Michigan State.
Similarity. Yeah. You know how I feel about Michigan State.
We'll never go back.
Never go back. Never go back.
We actually don't know what happened, but we know we're not going. Sorry, Applebee's. Michigan State, East Lansing.
Well, then they showed Hitler on the scoreboard, and so I'm definitely going. Never going there.
That's fair.
All right, Rashod Bateman. we've been waiting for him forever in Dynasty. He came into the league with a day one pedigree and just has never produced. Injuries have derailed his career. It's been in and out of the lineup. But to your point about this Ravens offense, Nelson Aguilar hasn't really stepped up. Despite last night, Mark Andrews has sort of been absent. Lamar is playing at an MVP level, truly. So Bateman drove me crazy last night, completely gaslighted me, because sitting on my bench in my Dynasty League, of course he is. Still won that league, though, by the way. Won that game. I don't know. He is what I would say. We can move on. I'll just say this about Rashod Bateman. He is Gabe Davis. I think is a decent comp. I mean, there's a little bit more of a floor there for me with Bateman than there is with Gabe Davis. But yes, it is a little. I think you've seen Rashod Bateman's best game of the season, and so I think as we're going to talk about him, and I want to talk about Cedric Tillman here as well. And I think it just sort of depends what you need. If you need somebody this week, Rashod Bateman on the road at Cleveland would be my choice, because I feel like at least we know he's going to be out there and playing with the best quarterback in fantasy football and potentially the NFL. But Cedric Tillman is somebody who, wide range of outcomes here for Cedric Tillman. Connor, you and I, he's another guy that's on my dynasty team that I'm really excited about. We've talked about Cedric Tillman since he was drafted.
Yeah, he was the Tyrone Tracy of 2 years ago.
Yes, he
and
was.
It didn't work out the way Tracy has, but also to be fair, it's his second year in the league now, and he's getting opportunity. With Tillman, such an interesting story. He was a star for Tennessee. Then his final year, he gets hurt, and Jalen Hyatt kind of blossoms over him in that offense. Tillman was still good, but banged up. And then he has the tough rookie year in this Browns offense that was crowded. It gets more crowded this year before they trade Amari Cooper. He finally plays 12 targets, Matthew, 8 catches, 81 yards, because he can play on the outside. That's the difference with him. So the snaps should be there for him, where a lot of these guys we talk about week after week, and we'll continue to do this with guys like on the Bucs, is the slot open for them because they really can't handle the outside? Tillman's 6'3", 215 pounds. He could be a possession threat on the outside. More importantly, as we saw in the 2-point conversion, a possession threat in the red area.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you telling me he was like your third
fifth.
Your
which
fifth.
is very high industry-wide. Like some people had him like 9th, 10th, 11th. I had him 5th that year, 5th or 4th.
You really liked him coming out of the draft, and you thought the Browns got a steal. I actually spoke to Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year, by the way. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but last year, Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. No, some people think he lost, but no. Turns out he actually won the award last year, Kevin Stefanski. And I actually asked him about Cedric Tillman, and he told me, we like Ced. It's just we've got a crowded room there, but we like Ced, and he made some real nice progress his rookie year. This is me talking to him at the Combine. Obviously, with Amari Cooper now in Buffalo, Cedric Tillman, 82% route participation in his first game without him, got a 25% target share. And I think the interesting thing is I definitely would feel better about him if we knew Jameis Winston was starting for the Browns. As we sit here and tape this on a Tuesday morning, we don't know whether it's going to be DTR or Jameis Winston. Feels like it should be Winston, but then again, it feels like it should have been Winston all along, and they kept sticking with Watson. Yeah. And maybe with the season lost, in essence, for the Browns, that maybe they say, let's just get DTR some reps and see what we can develop there. Either way, Cedric Tillman's a part of their future in a way that that Amari Cooper isn't. And I have yet to be super impressed with Elijah Moore or Jerry Jeudy.
No upside.
No upside.
Tillman has touchdown equity upside. That's the difference.
So, again, he could do nothing, especially if DTR is the quarterback, but he could also be Amari Cooper in a better offense because they don't have to play Deshaun Watson anymore.
Yeah, not that we could trust the Browns to do the right thing, but if they want to do right by that locker room, you play Jameis Winston. If you're all about development, but it's going to hurt everyone else, they're going to play DTR. Our next one here, Jay, Bills rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman against Seattle, 67% available. It's funny, they get Amari Cooper, and it feels like Keon Coleman, who hadn't done a lot this year, been very sporadic, he has his best game, 7 targets, 4 catches, 125 yards. I don't believe this is sustainable, but he's at least noteworthy on waivers where things are getting a little thin.
No, I think there is this notion floating around that there is this causation between Amari Cooper being there, and that opens up more opportunity for Keon Coleman. All of Keon Coleman's production came when Amari Cooper was off the field. Amari Cooper only played 19 snaps, so that's just not correct. I think it's just that the big bombs happened to happen in that game where Amari Cooper was a Buffalo Bill, even though he wasn't part of those plays. So again, very boom or bust with Coleman. There are going to be weeks, I think, because of the talent, because of how much he's on the field where he will produce, but again, like in terms of Bills pass catchers, Matthew, like it's Amari Cooper, you'd have Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir probably still over Keon Coleman.
1,000% right. Now, he's had back-to-back weeks with over 80% route participation, which you like. And honestly, his day could have been even better. He almost had a touchdown that, like, he juggled, like he got one foot in and juggled it a little bit, looked like it was a touchdown, and then was overruled. So his day could have been even better. But I'm with you, Jay, which is I think he's fourth among the pass catchers on Buffalo. We're mentioning him just because he had the big game, because he had the 4 for 125 in this one, 7 targets as well. And he's a big play threat. He was somebody that that will forever be linked with Xavier Worthy because of the trade between the Bills and the Chiefs. But so we're mentioning him because we're mentioning him. But I prefer Bateman and Tillman over Keon Coleman this week as you hit to waivers. Again, sort of depending on what you need. If you need someone for this week, it's Bateman. If you need somebody for sort of long-term upside, I think it's Tillman, who wide range of outcomes potentially for Cedric Tillman this year.
Another one here, staying in the AFC East at wide receivers, Patriots, Demario Pop Douglas. He's got the Jets. He's only available in 58% of leagues. He had 3 targets, and then he really didn't play in the second half, Matthew, due to the illness. Now, the one thing with Pop Douglas is, even when the Patriots, got blown out on Thursday night, the last time they played the Jets, he was the only one making some plays, and now he has Drake May, which is much better for him.
Almost a 38% target share. He's had 3 games with at least a 20% or north target share this year, and he's averaging 16 fantasy points per game. We like his talent, and I would say that to the extent you want to invest in the Patriots' passing attack, I prefer Demario Douglas than the other guys at the moment. We have yet to see Jalen Polk or any of these other guys kind of emerge. Hunter Henry, obviously a big part as well. We'll talk about him when we get to tight ends. But Drake May has shown some signs of life. Like there's some signs of life in the Patriots passing attack. They play the Jets on Sunday. Man, it would be great if the Patriots won that game. Come on, be honest with you.
Great?
Be great.
Do you have to talk about the game after for 90 minutes?
No, I do not.
Exactly. That's what I thought.
It would be great.
Peak comedy. If they
it would be
lose.
peak comedy.
I can only take so
because
much.
after they effed me on Sunday night, the Jets are dead to me.
Well, you took Jets money line. Yeah. That's your own doing.
Because I believed in them. Because
I believed in them. That's also your own doing.
I have nothing against the Jets. I'd like Connor to be happy, but it just would be from a kind of cinematic perspective.
Yes.
It would be incredible if Aaron Rodgers goes to 2-6.
All right,
so you'll have more to talk about if they lose than if they win.
We'll see. We need the season to stay alive to Halloween. Deep league wide receiver waiver targets here. Jalen McMillan, of course, we're going to get into the Bucs game and talk about the fallout of some injuries there. But McMillan's available in 99% of leagues, as is Trey Palmer. They have the Falcons on deck. Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Troy Franklin, Trey Tucker, Cedric Wilson, Khalif Raymond. These guys are available, besides Tolbert, in just about every single league right now.
Yeah, I mean, these are all sort of deep league ads. Sort of depends on what you need, who's available in your league, and depending if you need somebody for like longer term upside, like somebody like a Trey Tucker, if you need just somebody like immediately, maybe like a Cedric Wilson or Khalif Raymond, as Jameson Williams might miss a couple of games here as well. But I want to focus here real quickly on the Buccaneers wide receivers here. So you see Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer there. I think Sterling Shepard will be involved as well. Mike Evans leaves this game early, aggravating the hamstring injury that he'd come into the game with. And of course then the brutal injury to Chris Godwin on one of the last plays of the game last night. Down 10, junk time. We can debate. Other people can debate whether or not Godwin should have been in there or not. We don't need to do that as well. But just real quickly, Chris Godwin drinks free.
Get healthy, Chris Godwin.
We want Chris Godwin. Get healthy. Get better soon. It does look like dislocated ankle, and his season is unfortunately done.
Indeed. And just quick, like anyone who's criticizing Todd Bowles for that, you also have to level even more criticism of like D'Amico Ryans having Nico Collins in the Minnesota game when they were losing by 27. But because there was no injury there, no one cares. So there just needs to be consistency on that. But yeah, I mean, Godwin was having the best season of his career. He's second in the NFL in receiving yards. He's having an amazing year. And also Mike Evans as well. Hopefully that is not a long-term absence. Certainly didn't look good. But yeah, not good for the Bucs or the Niners right now in terms of injury situations.
So, Connor, let's break this down. So, McMillan is the rookie, won the third wide receiver job out of camp. He's had 15 targets this year. 7 of them have been on deep passes. They're using him as a deep threat. Now, do you think he can run more routes? Because Godwin was playing the majority of the slot there, which Sterling Shepard has done some as well. We've seen. So you tell me how you break this all down.
If McMillan is going to play in the slot, I'd be in on McMillan as an ad
sure.
because I think there's a lot of targets on the platter for them. I didn't think coming out of college he had the play strength to consistently play on the outside. And there's been times where the Bucs have dabbled with that this year because they like who they like on the inside. So we said this, Matthew, back in August when McMillan was having a really nice summer. If an injury opens up the slot for him, he's, relevant this year, which is crazy to say about considering where he was drafted. But if they're going to continue to put other guys there and ask McMillan to play on the outside, I think you're going to see a lot of inconsistency.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's interesting. I keep hearing, Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen, they've been talking up Sterling Shepard, and he's had some moments.
Todd likes his veterans.
Todd does like his veterans,
for
sure. But he may not have a choice because McMillan just may, earn his way onto the field because they just don't have anyone else, especially, by the way, if Evans can't go. We don't know the severity of that injury just yet. Obviously, didn't look good last night. But McMillan would be my favorite if you're picking up a Buccaneers wide receiver. But, are you taking a stab on all of them, Jay, and seeing what happens?
I think so. There's just so much uncertainty. None of these guys have really established themselves. It's a new offense as well, so any lessons from last year? Jalen McMillan's obviously his first season. But, look, Baker Mayfield's been playing at a really high level this season, notwithstanding how he played last night. It's a solid offensive line. It's a creative, pass-happy offensive coordinator. So I think there is a lot of fantasy equity on this Bucs passing game. And so I do think if you're going to be taking flyers, at some point it is better to take flyers on these guys as opposed to Elijah Moore, who is in a really kind of barren fantasy wasteland in terms of potential production.
I think at least initially with the Buccaneers, what you'll see is an increased role for Cade Otton, who had the big game last night as well. And all three running backs, because all three of them, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, and Sean Tucker, can catch out of the backfield. So could you see two tight end set? Could you see a bunch of two tight end sets? Could you see multiple running backs in the backfield and just trying to do a lot more short stuffing? Yeah. And then, McMillan and Evan running some deep routes to try to open up stuff underneath. So I think a lot to be determined with the Tampa Bay offense and how they overcome these injuries. But we do think McMillan has the most upside of the guys that are available. But they're all out there. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.